Here, ready to go. Thank you, Katie and Carlton. Let me introduce our panelists. This is our keynote session, focusing on CMMC in 2020 and what organizations really need to be thinking right now here in the last few months of the year. Our guest speakers are, I'll start with Carlton Johnson. Unfortunately, Ty Scheiber from the CMMC AB was not able to join us today, but we got the Vice Chairman of the Board of Directors, Carlton Johnson. He's senior executive and respected visionary leader with over 32 years of experience in strategic leadership and risk partnership creation, organizational excellence, mission assurance, cybersecurity, and enterprise communications technologies. He's a decorated combat veteran. He previously served as the CIO for Multinational Security Transition Command in Iraq. Under his leadership, his joint team conducted numerous combat missions in hostile fire zones. In his most recent posting, he served with distinction as the U.S. Senior Military Executive CIO and lead cyberspace expert advisor to the 4-star commander at the U.S. forces in Korea. In 2014, Mr. Johnson retired from the U.S. Air Force active duty as a colonel after 26 years of honorable service. He's known for strategic leadership in firms of up to 47,000 employees. He's currently the Chief Executive Officer of Delane Strategy Group, a strategic advisory practice providing counsel to C-suite leaders in public, private, nonprofit, and government sectors, and he serves on numerous boards. And our other very featured speaker is Katie Arrington, who's the CIO for acquisition, Chief Information Security Officer for acquisition and sustainment to the Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition and Sustainment. And she serves as a central hub and integrator within the office of the Undersecretary to align acquisition and sustainment cyber strategy and efforts to enhance cybersecurity within the defense industrial base. As CISO, she's responsible to ensure the incorporation of integrated security cyber efforts with the purpose of providing a focused and streamlined governance approach, provide a central coordination point, and common compliance standards that serve to synchronize the various existing disparate cybersecurity efforts and standards across the defense and industry as it relates to the DoD acquisition and sustainment efforts. She's leading the efforts to ensure a secure defense supply chain through the implementation of trusted capital vendors and supply chain risk management principles, enhance the defense industrial base security and resilience, and establish common cybersecurity standards within the department acquisition efforts. She's had an extensive career as both a legislator and a cyber executive in private industry. And she was also in 2018 a candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives for South Carolina and served for 2 terms as a South Carolina state representative. But we all know her and love her as the irrepressible driving force behind CMMC. So please join me in welcoming both Carl and Katie. And let me ask each of you to just offer a few words on your thoughts as to CMMC and what organizations, both small and medium-sized defense companies, large organizations, and research institutions need to be thinking and planning right now. Let me start with you, Carlton. Just have your thoughts.
I want to give Katie, since she is leading the CMMC effort, and where she leads, we follow. I want to give you the opportunity to go ahead and start that, and I'll add amplifying comments.
Great.
Thank you. Randy, thank you for putting this on. I love talking to industry, and I'm sorry you all are graced with the capability of not having to look at my face, because I got to tell you, I'm tired of seeing, I don't know about the rest of you, but in the COVID, looking at my face on Zooms and webinars, I'm tired of seeing me. So it's a gift to you. It's only my voice. Carlton, to my board member, your career, man, wow. Pretty amazing, and how awesome it is to be able to work with you just about every day now. Real quick, I'll surmise where we are. It's really happening, folks. Get ready. That's what I can tell you. The CMMC AB with the DIBTAC, with DOD, and others, created and had the very first training session for C3PAOs. Now, granted, because this was the first one, they went in a lottery system with all the people that had put in. They put through, and I believe Carlton will correct me, and I love that about my AB bods. They correct me when I'm offline, but I think they had 25 people pass the first class. Correct, Carlton?
That's correct.
All righty. So it's really happening. And we're not kidding around. This is real. Big things for those of you that are on the phone. If you're associated with the DoD, whether you're a prime, you're a sub, you're a research institution, you're a college, a university, you're a nonprofit, and you have a contract, an agreement with the DoD, whether it be an OTA, a SIPR, an STTR, a grant, that rule, the DFAR rule will apply to you, period. And I really need everybody to understand it is not trying to gig industry or academia or stifle innovation. But the innovation, when it starts, when we create the thing, right? We need everybody making it security is foundational at the very start. And the only way to do that is to start at the very beginning, right? That's when when an idea is just being born, or a technology or a capability. We in the Department of Defense, we in the federal government, so rely on industry to create that innovation, to cultivate it. We absolutely need you guys, because you're the doers. So 100%, this is happening. It's real. I know she's been talking since last year. I know. And in the government speed, we have moved the CMMC in record pace, shattering records. Generally, to make a move of this size and magnitude and implication takes years. It's taken us, it'll be 2 years in February. So what is that? We're about 18 months into the effort. I think we're moving and rocking and rolling. The fact that we've had a class on training, we've agreed on a model. We have the people that have been, went through and got the assessments. We are working through so we can start actually racking, getting the assessment started. I'm working on the final memo to say that if you have one of these 25 first people through as they work through the second, third, fourth class, that we will accept the CMMC certifications from those auditors going forward from a date that will be in the next week or two. So it's real. We want to start getting people certified because it's going to happen. So we're here to support. We don't want to gig anybody. We don't want to eliminate anybody from our supply chain or from innovation, but we have to get there together, folks, and we are going to get there. It's not an if, it's we are. And looking forward to your questions today. I've tried to be as transparent as absolutely possible every step of the way. We'll continue the conversations, and Carlton, I applaud yet again. I will say thank you to the volunteers who serve on the accreditation board. You guys literally have given up day jobs in a volunteer mode to do the right thing for the nation. And we are forever as a nation. I know there's, every day I turn and there's somebody poking at it. I commend the AB, the volunteerism, the mission, and the effort from every member, past, current, present, on that AB body. And I'll turn it over to you, Carlton.
Thank you, ma'am. And what I'll add for amplifying comments is, as Katie had mentioned, this is a team effort, so we're working very closely with Katie and her team, and we're also trying to maintain transparency in what we're doing and make sure what we are providing. Our primary mission is to implement this program and this activity in a clear, consumable, and consistent method. As we've said recently, the organizations seeking certification are really who this program is all about. And so what we've done from the beginning of January, We've started and registered as a bond stock corporation in Maryland. The board is all volunteers. Many people come from different walks of life. All are experts in their own realm. And because of that diversity, and these people serving as individuals and representatives of their parent organizations, we're bringing that diversity and mission focus to do this important job. I'll speak personally for myself real quick. As Katie has mentioned, this is a heavy lift. It takes a lot of effort, but having served in combat before and having also seen the adversary and what the adversary is willing to do to make us drop our flag, give up our way of life, and use cyber and IT as that pathway to do so, I just decided a long time ago, not on my watch. And so I believe that this was the right thing to do and jump into this fray. And every single person who's on the board has taken the same approach. Katie's talked about some of the things we've done recently. In addition to training and getting assessors out, you'll notice that we have our licensed professionals identified on the website and a whole lot of other things going on. So rather than take a lot of time and just tell you about stuff, I'd rather hear your questions and we can go from there. But as always, I will say we're one team all in to get this done. As Katie said, it's coming. So let's talk about how you get ready and make this happen.
All right.
Thank you both for those introductory comments. We're trying to keep the majority of the session to answer your questions. So I'm going to try and clump some of them together. Here's one for Katie from the research community. Can you address DoD-sponsored fundamental basic research at public universities in the context of CMMC? Is an exclusion from CMMC being considered for basic research? If not, could you commit to level 1 for basic research? What do you suggest if there's a large university with hundreds of labs that will need to be certified?
So no, we're not doing exclusions. So let's start right at the baseline, right? An exclusion tends to, if you don't put security at, trying to bolt it in later never works, right? You've got to make it foundational. Now, for the research universities and the multiple labs, what we would expect, if it were me, right, I would certify just the lab at the university that's going to be doing a particular piece of work. Now, mind you, if they're doing, multiples, they can use that same certification for 3 years. Some schools, and I will tell you, there's a couple of big universities that want level 2 for the entire university. That's, because you got to remember, the IP that a student, right, that innovation, it's theirs, right? That is their IP, their brain, their work, right? We need to protect it. So a lot of big bigs have said, we want to achieve a level 2 across the university, but our segmented labs that'll be doing classified information, we will get certified to those levels as per that lab. So I want to say, don't look at it like a blanket, right? You've got to look at what is that unit that's going to be going out there to get a certification. And part of that cost, right, would be, as you roll it in, right, and you get a grant or you get an award, that cost realism to be able to impart that level of security that is required. So it's not one size fits all. There are universities, I've had multiple meetings with universities that are rolling in a level 1 CMMC type of course into their freshman 101 orientation class, because we need to create cyber hygiene critical thinking. So but no exclusions. Sorry, kids, not going to happen. Remember, it's not going to be a light switch. We're not turning on, at the calendar year of 2020, end of the year, and saying, okay, everything on January 1st has to have the CMMC in the contract. It is something that is going to be implemented strategically over the next 5 years. So as new contracts come out, new grants come out, they will put the CMMC in as we have enough certified auditors to carry the load. We don't want to put out a tremendous amount of RFPs or grants that we don't have the capability to get the companies their auditors that they need, the marketplace of auditors. But know that, you know, there's a lot of things going on, and we are trying our best in the Department of Defense to communicate that it's going to take 5 years. Don't wait. Get yourself prepared, because if you're currently doing anything that has that DFAR clause 7012, I'm going to reiterate again, loud and clear, please hear me. You are already attesting, you are already saying to the federal government, to the Department of Defense, that you are doing the NIST 171, 110 controls today. So don't wait. We don't want to gig you. We don't want you to, you know, it's not a demerit. We want you to get good. And it's the reason why is because our adversary is working against you. And we want to help protect you. And the best way we can do it is making sure that we pay you the right amount of money, the right dollar figure, to ensure that you're doing the right level of security for the right time on the right mission. So, next question, Randy.
Yeah, I think this one goes to Carlton. There are a whole bunch of questions. I'm going to group them. There's a whole bunch that relate to auditors and the number of auditors. You know, some were saying, hey, if there's only 25, you know, how can small businesses expect to get accredited in a timely fashion? Maybe talk for a minute or so about your kind of forecast for accreditation of auditors, Carlton.
No, absolutely, and thanks for that question. 25 is just the beginning. We're looking to go, at least in the provincial stage, up to, I believe, 72 auditors, and that gets us through the provisional portion of this. Going down the road, as we continue to expand that, of course, that will be enhanced. But to your point, 25 is not enough. We have a class, actually, we had a class at the beginning of the month, for about a week. We're going to have another class at the end of this month. And so as we get closer towards the end of the year, we'll get that 72. So there are definitely more to come. So don't worry, we're going to work to have enough to support the businesses as appropriate.
Thanks for addressing the 72, because somebody else said, I thought there were 72, and you telling me that only 25 passed, that's kind of a high failure rate.
No, well, I want to take a moment here on this, and I just want to kind of say this, and you know, I appreciate the question and how they framed it. So, when in doubt, of course, ask, and there's always more behind it. And as we communicate out from the AB in coordination with DoD, we're communicating the best we can in terms of the truth of message. Now, in this case, the truth is, like I said, 25 have gone through the initial training. The plan is to have 72 for the provisional status. And then as we go forward, we will increase. So yeah, we had a pretty good pass rate on the last one.
Okay, great. This next one, clump of questions for Katie about DFARS and a bunch related to it. What's the latest on the public comment period for DFAR 7012? And I thought audits were going to be on hold until DFAR 7012, the revision was finalized.
So the DFAR rule is in play. That, you know, I don't know when it's going to make it to the public site. OIRA and OMB are doing an amazing job. There's a tremendous amount of rules, if you haven't noticed, getting posted, and they're working through it. What we're saying is to help the government, the Department of Defense, isn't going to start making it a requirement in RFPs until the rule change is completed. But because we do have CMMC Level 1 auditors that have been licensed to provide a Level 1 certification, if companies want to go now, reach out and start that process, we are not going to stand in the way. Now, the challenge on level 3, right? And let's all go to level 3. First, out of the 300,000 universities, businesses, and small businesses within the whole DoD ecosystem, 270,000 of them, on or about, will only ever need level 1 certification. Level 3 is where the DFAR rule today lives, in that that's when CUI, controlled unclassified information, is transmitting, being received onto a contractor's network. Why I'm hesitant about saying go ahead and start getting those auditors that are approved to start the level 3 assessments is because there's that delta as we move through the rule change that added 20 additional controls to level 3. So we don't want to go out and, have an assessment on something that you may not need to have to get level 3, because that we've always said that 20 control delta is a discussion point. So that's what we're talking about. We want to start the ecosystem because, like I said, the rule change will make it that the DoD will insert it into contracts. We can't stop, what industry, that is, we have no say, right? That's the whole point of why a nonprofit needed to be stood up and outside the DoD so we could hand them the model. It can't be reliant on us. We need industry to write itself on this, and to the accreditation bodies board, they've done, and the working groups. I shouldn't say that. And Carlton, I apologize to all of those volunteers on the working groups. We thank you as well, because it's not just the 12 plus members, or I'm sorry, 10, 11, or 12, I can't remember the number of, I can name all the BOD names, can't count. But there's a tremendous amount of volunteers on the working groups that are doing this to get too good. So, no, that's what we're talking about. The rule change, any day now. I would just keep saying, keep your eyes peeled.
Okay.
Can I add in on that?
Please go ahead.
So and as Katie said, again, this is a team sport, and as we are, from our early days of just listening, we have gone forth and through the effort of many, many, many people continue to push this out. For example, when we did the initial registration for the C3 PAOs, if my memory serves, we have approximately 180 C3 PAOs that have signed up. So there's been a lot of progress, but a lot of that work has been done by those volunteers, by those working group members. And again, we remain in close collaboration with DoD and industry as we've listened to concerns that are out there, try to incorporate the appropriate changes into the process and build out this ecosystem. So there's been a lot that has been done both in the initial mock stage, the provisional stage, and as we move forward towards rule changes Katie talked about, getting ready to go live.
A couple of I got a bunch of different questions from very different angles. One, speaking of level 3, is CUI expected to be distributed in encrypted form? How can industry kind of get ahead, of the game on this?
So CUI has always been, and not always. I'm sorry, I shouldn't make an overgeneralization. I apologize. CUI is a challenge, right? So what we have been working with USDI. Is a training to go out, a handbook, guidebook to what CUI is. And we need to, and the encryption side, yes, so we've got to work through, right, what is CUI and who is getting it in the waterfall of the contract from prime to sub. We've said numerous times on so many conversations that we've had throughout the past year and a half, 2 years together. It's, not, if a prime contractor is getting CUI and a sub is not getting sent the CUI, it is not part of their scope of work, they don't need to get level 3. We don't want them to, it's not required. Only the prime and the people, the entities, I say that, companies are peoples, that who's touching the CUI, the controlled unclassified information. And in March of this year, industrial policy USDI updated their policy. With that, we are creating a handbook, a desk guide, to help everybody understand in a more clearer way what CUI is and how it should be appropriately marked in, I would say, in layman's terms. It's in, you know, the instruction right now, just like the NIST, and I love the NIST 171. I love NIST 53. I love Ron Ross. I think they're all amazing. He's my main contact at NIST, just so you know. But all of them, they're great, but they're sometimes hard to understand in small business terms. So we're trying our hardest to get that done. In light of COVID, it's a little bit more challenging and sportier, but we are definitely working to get a hand guide out to industry and to the acquisition community to ensure that we're doing the right things.
Following on your point there, Katie, several people have asked this similar question. Before CMMC, there was NIST 171, and if I complied with that, what am I going to have to do differently to be compliant with CMMC? Or maybe you can answer that as, you know, where to go to figure that out.
So right now, if you go to the CMMC AB website or to the DoD CMMC websites, you can look at the models. They've been out there for everyone since January of 2020 to look at. So if you are currently doing all 110 controls of the NIST, because remember, I'm going to go deep here. Department of Defense, CIO, determines what standard is used for the DoD. So Mr. Deasy, the Honorable Dana Deasy, they have NIST 171 and the 110 controls for non-federal systems, and that's the DIB. My job as CISO ANS is to figure out a way to make those ingestible, repeatable, auditable, and scalable for the DIB, the Defense Industrial Base, all 300,000. So if you're doing the 110 controls today, good. Great. You're going to need to get an auditor to come out and, as we've said before, trust but verify, to come out and do your audit review and then submit the findings to get your company's accreditation level. The cost is going, and I can't get into a tremendous amount of that as we're in the throes of the DFAR rule, but the cost of getting that certification, the company's time and effort to get prepared for the audit, the actual audit itself, the team that would need to come in and do that, we have taken that and given it to OIRA and OMB as a cost, right, that we in the Department of Defense understand we are going to pay for. We know we are. That's the whole point of this. I'm not asking you to do something that we are not willing to pay for. So you will build that cost into your rates as you submit offers in the future. So level 3, if you're doing all 110 controls, great, but there's no one today who can give you a NIST certification because NIST is not a certification body. That's why we had the CMMC, not we, that's why the CMMC AB, the nonprofit, stood up so they could be the, I would say, the connective tissue to ensure that it was scalable, repeatable for the industrial base.
And if I can add on to that, you know, as you look at the ecosystem that we worked together to build out, you know, as people are looking at moving from the NIST piece to the CMMC, just to say level 3, level 1 really just kind of gets you in the door for the basic cyber hygiene. Level 2 is that transition step. But level 3 now has the 110 controls plus the additional 20 controls for maturity level. And this is what separates out the CMMC model from the others. It's actually looking at improving over time and space. So to look at helping companies get ready for that, you know, we've looked at and are pushing out registered provider organizations and registered practitioners. An RP, registered practitioner, would, for example, deliver non-certified, and I want to repeat, non-certified advisory services that would be informed by basic training from the CMMC standard. And so these people would be, if you will, consultants or advisors. They're not certified, but they can help you get the initial practices started and give you a check and just see where you are. On the other hand, we're also building out certified professionals or what we're calling certified assessors. And so those people are certified. They deliver advice that is based off of both their rigorous training and on what is and is not acceptable from the actual CMMC certified assessment. So they go through a more rigorous process. And between those entities, plus what we're pushing out, which includes the licensed partner publishers, now they're just joining the ecosystem right now. If memory serves, we have named the first 11 within the last couple of weeks. So these are organizations that are going to help with the exam criteria. They're going to provide the educational piece, but are licensed through the CMMC AB. So there's going to be a lot of information that is out there and a lot of people in the ecosystem that can help small and large organizations get ready for this. But as Katie said, the initial steps, getting ready, starting with the NIST 800-171, if you haven't started that and you have that in your clause, well, you're a little late. If you don't have it in your clause, use that as the initial steps, and then go to the model and look at what we're doing from the overall CMMC perspective and take a look at what's going on with the additional 20 controls. And that'll get your foot out the door.
So, and on to foot stomp on that, and I appreciate the AB, right, and having those people that they can consult with and create a relationship, a fiduciary, relationship with. And I will, there are alternatives, Project Spectrum, IC, which is the Department of Defense Office of Small Business effort to help with the education and preparation for small businesses and innovative smaller companies to get prepared for the CMMC. You can go there. It's a community a center of excellence or a community to get some, it's no cost to small business to participate. There are webinars, there are tools that you can use, all there at Project Spectrum. We have also worked and are working with the PTACs, the Professional Technical Assistance Centers. There are 179 in the U.S. Virtually every state county has one, and they are there at low or no cost to do the same. They'll be going through the AB training, just as Carlton described, to become basically somebody who they can advise. They're not there to give audits, but they can advise. So we're trying to bite down the get ready in many, many different ways. I know the Small Business Administration, Major Clark over there, has been incredibly engaged to create programs and pathways for small businesses, because we do understand, and like the model was created as a crawl, walk, run. Crawl is level 1, the walk is level 2, the run is level 3. And small businesses specifically, it takes a lot of resources to get that in line. I myself owned a small business. I know wherever I speak. I went from DICAP to RMF. That's hard. It's really hard work and it's expensive. So we wanted to provide tools for industry, for small businesses, for academia to go. There are others throughout the country. I can tell you those are the big ones. I look at specific states that are doing certain things. I look at Cascade in California. They're awesome. You look at what Michigan has. I mean, there's just so many opportunities to get prepared, to get outreach to your business on this, that, if you're not, it's because you're not trying to find it.
Excellent. I'm going to pose to Carlton for starters. There's a bundle of different questions all around C3PAOs. So I'll throw a few things at you, and then you can decide which one you want to answer. I'm interested in becoming a C3PAO, but I'm waiting for the license agreement to be released. I'm not affiliated with any assessors. Should I wait or apply now? Another person asks, is there a priority system for initially selecting who wants to be qualified as CPAOs? For those who submitted applications and fees to become a C3PAO, when can I expect to hear more about the training schedule and the timeline? Oh, and one more said, I'm trying to convince my boss to let me be a C3PAO. Can you help me make the business case that it's going to be a profitable venture?
Wow. Okay, so that's a lot to unpack. So let me try to answer those as I remember them, and then if I miss one, I'll see if I can come back. So on the last question, I really want to foot stomp on that, and I find it interesting when companies or organizations are saying, "Hey, do I need to look at becoming CMMC certified, and do I want to play in the ecosystem?" Well, I'd say is absolutely yes, and here's why. From an organizational perspective, this is about buying down risk and protecting key data, not just DoD data, but protecting data for that organization. And as Katie pointed out in the educational piece, IP and education, all those things have to be protected. So if you want to be part of the solution, absolutely, you want to join the bandwagon and either become a C3PAO, become an assessor, play in the ecosystem, and then leverage those things that you're doing to help your business succeed as well. So, I'd say again, it's a business decision, but I think it's the right decision to do because we all win together on this. If you join in the ecosystem,
Carlton?
Yes,
Can
ma'am.
you add so clarify on that the issue of if you're an auditor, what you can't do for a company?
Yeah, roger that. And so to be clear, because we want to make sure we have a very clear distinction and prevent OCI. Okay, you cannot be an assessor or part of an assessment organization and then come in and audit. I.e., you can't go prepare for the test and then give the test. That would be an OCI. So our website has very clear distinctions on what you can and cannot do, whether you're a C3PAO, an assessor, or another. So definitely we want to prevent OCI to the max extent possible and just make sure it just doesn't happen.
And that creates a self-licking, and I'm sorry, Carlton, because I just want to make sure everybody understands what we didn't want to create there, right? The intent when we talked to the AB once they stood up was we didn't want to create a self-licking ice cream cone. We don't want a bunch of people going into companies and saying, oh, well, you've got all these problems and my product will solve the problem and then I'll come back and I'll give you your certification. That is absolutely not the case. And that's why we looked for a non-profit. There was a specific reason is we didn't want this to become a self-licking ice cream cone. And the AB worked really hard. I mean, I would say the first few months, several months of the accreditation body as they formulated, it was, what are our rules of ethics? How are we creating OCI for ourselves as the AB body, but also for these different people within the ecosystem? So you can't go to a company if you're a product. You cannot go in to do any. Product is not the goal. Product is what you use to help solve the problem, not to identify it, and not to audit it. So there's very stringent OCI. You can't go in and tell a company how to get good and to get ready and then come in and grade them. That's just inappropriate, not going to happen. So very clear distinctions. We believe that the ecosystem, as Carlton has said numerous times, is a large ecosystem that will encompass a lot of what's already out there. I kind of giggle at, I don't want to say the rumor mill, right? But when I read stuff on LinkedIn, I'm blown away by people that, I'm going to say this and if you're telling me that there's a problem and you don't have a solution, you are whining. No whining in baseball. And we need to come, if you have something to say, poking, and I will say this should go for everything you do in your life, right? If you're going to be negative about it, you're never going to get to a solution. We're open, as this has evolved, to finding a solution, right? Telling us repeatedly, oh, this is going to fail. You know what? Heard ya the first 20 times. Still pressing forward because the nation's depending on us to do the right thing. And the board has gone out of their way to set clearly defined parameters to ensure OCI, to ensure that we're not creating monoliths. But they have been working to encompass best practices and capability providers that are already in the ecosystem to bring them into the fold. So I say that it's not a hard swing for the accreditation body. It's more of understanding how to, if anything, like the connective tissue, right? That's the AB. That's the connective tissues to bring all of the tools that we have in our ecosystem to bear to get this done. So, Carlton, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in on you, but it's there's a lot out there already. It's not like they're starting from scratch.
Roger that.
Not even the model started from scratch. It was based on the NIST.
To add in and to answer another question I believe was asked, how were the C3PAOs identified? When we did if memory serves, when we did the go live for the C3PAO sign up, it was first come, first serve, randomly, let people come in as it was opened up. And C3PAO potentials had to sign a C3PAO license agreement. They had to provide verification of insurance, for example, cybersecurity breach policies, errors and omissions, and the like. They had to pay the application fee, which, if I recall correctly, also the application fee goes through 2021. And then they had to be subject, and this is important, they had to be subject to an organizational background check through data that was provided to us via Dun & Bradstreet and have a DUNS number. So as they went through all that, now the next step for them would have been to maintain a relationship and association with an RP, C3, CP, or CA for 30, and a 30-day grace period would apply for that. And again, that provides that connective tissue we talked about before of having people who are part of the ecosystem, who've gone through the ecosystem and understand it, and they have a relationship with the C3PAO. So when they come to the door, they're trained and they're, I should say they are representative of quality. And then the last part was to be 100% US citizen-owned business. So all those processes were identified. And when we did the go live, people signed up like immediately. It was phenomenal, the opening we had with the C3PAOs. To answer what I believe was the last question, and if I miss one, we can come back to it. What are going to be the next steps? What I will communicate is as soon as we have additional information on what's going to happen through the rest of the year, we're going to post that on the website. I will let you know as soon as we find out, but I'm going to take that back and see how we can communicate the next steps.
Excellent. We only have about 3 minutes left. I'm going to pick a couple of questions that might not be as traditional. This one I kind of like. It says, can you comment on how non-traditional small companies without a physical location, i.e. fully teleworked, nor an organic network to speak of who are using cloud services and bring your own device environment will be able to achieve compliance considering CMMC guidance, and the examples seem to be written towards traditional network environments?
So if you are a company, I'm going to answer that one. And if you register to get a DUNS number, to get a SAMS registration, to get a business license, you have to have an address. The certifiers, if it's just your laptop connecting to the internet, they got that. But it's not like you don't have a place of business. You're getting mail. Well, there be your home, and that's how that's where you work out of. You have to give that certifier, that auditor, part of the thing with CMMC is it does more than just give great cyber hygiene, the critical thinking, and it is not a checklist. It is supposed to be something that evolves as the threat changes. That's why we work so hard on this. It really is about creating the critical thinking behind it. But it also buys down the risk of shell companies, which our industry has been blasted with over the past few years. It buys down the risk of foreign ownership, and by that I don't mean our allied partners, right? We need to get our adversaries out of our supply chain. So if you're an innovative, small startup company, we understand that. And the level 1 certification to which you more than likely, 99% of the time you would need is a 17 virtual no-cost controls that you just have to show the evidence to the auditor that you're doing and prove that you have the entity that you say that you have. So the government can contract with you. So we're going to work with you. And we're going to make this. I hope as we walk through the snow. Hope, hope, prayer is a method. I'm sorry, but we are going to, face challenges and work through them as a group, right? Because this is about the United States of America, all of us interconnected, all of us doing the right thing so that our national interest, which is what we're all a part of, is protected. So know that, as things like that come up, I would say you look at us in an agile methodology. We are going to fix the plane as she flies. Know that there may be moments where we not uncomfortable, but, there's going to be things that we need to change up or switch up in the auditing process. As we move, and I know I'm going over time, Randy, but I think this is important. We started this off where the training all had to be in person. This is when I talk about that agile development of the model, right? We had to figure out how to do it virtually because COVID happened. How are we going to handle if we go into another, God forbid, we go into another lockdown for another issue? How will we handle it? So those are the things I talk about. We've got to be able to open our minds to the art of the possible as we move through this, but it is happening in real time, and we are going to continue working through those challenges. And innovative small businesses, we understand, I ran my first startup out of the coffee shop, so I know what you're talking about, and believe me, that's why I'm in the role I'm in, is because I do understand the challenges you have. I'm sorry I went over.
No, that's okay.
Can I give one last vignette? I know we're over time. I'll make it quick.
No.
So two quick things. One, one of my guys is online watching this, and he communicated to me, hey, FYI, we went up from 180 to 309 see-through PAO. So the new number is 309, so just FYI, even better than I thought. The last thing I want to say is I just want to give a quick operational vignette. As Katie said, I have some combat experience. And this is one of the reasons that I strongly believe in CMMC. Let's say that you're a small business and you work with some of the heavy hitters, and you provide a particular widget that is going to go into Kevlar armor or something that somebody's going to use on a battlefield. And that armor is going to protect a soldier, sailor, or Marine who's doing the work for the country and liberty and freedom and so forth. Now let's look at it as when a adversary now infiltrates because somebody hasn't done what they needed to do for cyber readiness and hygiene. They go in and change the configuration, the components of that Kevlar. So instead of being the capability that actually stops the round, now you got something that's, it breaks upon impact and the life is lost. That's what I look at when I see CMMC. When people ask me, why is this important? It's going to save lives in a battlefield perspective. It's going to protect our IP. It's going to protect businesses across the board. And so I'm very serious, and our team is very serious about this. And from a small business perspective, take this as an opportunity to jump on the bandwagon and be part of this, because you are going to be a critical part of defending the nation, whether you know it or not. And so I ask you to join in the ecosystem and be part of the fight.
Thank you. And I'll throw in one last point, which is because a number of follow-up questions came with regard to the last question about, more non-traditional organizations. I would just also add, and I feel I don't want to detract from the lofty closing comments, Carlton, you've made, but going a little bit further down to earth, there's really nothing in the CMMC controls and policies and so forth that dictate a traditional network structure. In fact, cloud services are absolutely able to be used. Just not your standard off-the-shelf ones. They might have to be tailored specially, and you still have to pay attention to the controls that you put in place. But there are cloud services that absolutely can be used in conjunction with CMMC Level 3. One of those happens to be Prevail. So my colleague Sanjeev Verma will be talking about that in the next session in 5 minutes. But at this point, I really, really, really want to thank both Katie and Carlton. I certainly felt this was a really great conversation. It's really neat to see all the interest in the topics, and I think you guys really ended up addressing a pretty large volume of things that are on a lot of people's minds. So thank you so much for your being to the point and addressing the concerns of the people in the audience here.
Thank you.
No problem. Always thank you for the opportunity to communicate. This is, from the beginning, this has been a collaboration with industry, with academia, and with the Department of Defense. And that will continue because not one of us is going to solve this problem, right? We're all in this together. We all have to solve the problem together. Not everybody's going to agree. You take, 90% consensus and you move forward. So look forward to the continued collaboration to make every business, every citizen, every person in the United States, the capability to be, free and to have what they create as theirs and they maintain it. So thank you so much for the opportunity. As I've been saying through all of the COVID crisis, stay positive, test negative.
Thank you all. We will take a break for 5 minutes before the next session at 2.